Hello, our favorite bobbing ball of AI compute processing out in the ocean has some news this week. Basically doubled their valuation in a matter of months. So that's the big news story I want to get to. But before, just some quick stuff I want to touch on. There is a wildfire relief, wildfire support piece that our friend Brad Attig from the rural Oregon kind of entrepreneurship support has put together, really describing like if you want to help people who are being impacted by the wildfires in Oregon, there's some really simple, straightforward ways to be helpful no matter where you are. Very similar to what I was describing in terms of supporting founders on social previously. I really appreciate that Brad put that together. And if you are interested in helping the hundreds, if not thousands of people who've been impacted by the Oregon wildfires, please check that out. Big news from an OSU, spinout, Oregon State. Tandem PV acquired NextTC. What NextTC does is they really make solar panels more efficient and more effective. And so that was the reasoning for acquiring that company. Again, that's something that spun out of Oregon State and all of their engineering expertise and is now helping Tandem PV make better, well, and they had already been helping Tandem PV make better solar panels. They were just kind of like, hey, why are we paying you to do this stuff? Why don't we just make you part of the company? So that was the acquisition there. Speaking of OSU, they put out a big piece, Oregon State put out a big piece on some of their spinoffs. As you well know, Agility Robotics is one of their spinoffs. So that's obviously a marquee company, a leader in humanoid robotics right here in Oregon, which is super exciting. But they also talk through, I don't know that I'm going to be able to pronounce any of these, Amorphix, Impria, NextTC, Fazio, and Dallascore as companies that have spun out and are seeing success and should be celebrated within our community. So really nice to see Oregon State putting that out. And then this one's a bit of a deep cut. If you've been around the Portland startup community for, 20 years or so, you may recognize the name About Us. About Us was a startup that was really focused on basically creating wiki pages for every business anywhere. That was their end goal, is that every business everywhere should have a wiki page. And that was the primary focus of About Us. It was founded by Ray King. Our friend Ward Cunningham worked there for a while. You know Ward Cunningham, the inventor of the wiki, who lives here in Portland. Ward also kind of the inventor, inspiration of agile programming, as it were. But all the About Us stuff aside, I'm just giving you receipts for Ray King and the work he's done. He's been working on a company called Porkbun, which is a domain registrar. He announced that they've now enabled people to secure more than 4 million domains, which is an impressive milestone. So, not sponsored, but the next time you're looking for a domain, maybe consider Porkbun as an option to register that domain. And I know they were going after some top level domains that I believe they manage. I don't know off the top of my head which ones they are, but Porkbun for domain registration could be a good solution, and you're really buying local with that. And then finally, our friends at Rose City Robotics won a major grant from the Department of Energy for lithium-ion battery recycling. So curious to see where that goes, how that money is spent, and congratulations to Rose City Robotics for securing that grant. It's always nice to see Oregon companies getting federal grants to further activity here. Okay, so the big story, teased it at the top, Panthalassa, who I talk about here all the time. They're the one, a few months ago, I mentioned like, hey, I went out and did some research with people in the community, and I was like, who's the most underrated startup? Who's the one that no one's talking about that everyone should be talking about? And every single person said Panthalassa. So I started tracking on them. Recently, they had some big news about a big round that they raised that basically valued them as a unicorn, although I think I'm kind of pushing for, because Panthalassa does wave energy and then puts these giant spherical, basically data centers floating in the ocean and bobbing and like generating electricity and energy from the wave motion, but also having the compute inside the big spheres. And then they're cooled by the ocean because the ocean's cold. Like, that's their whole thing. Maybe instead of a unicorn, they're like a narwhal. Because, the narwhals have the horn, but they're in the ocean, like Panthalassa. So, that's not going to go anywhere, that analogy. I'll keep trying to sell it, but I don't think anybody's buying. So, Panthalassa raised a huge round, made them a unicorn, and then like a couple months later, maybe less than 2 months later, they've now announced that, well, they haven't announced. So our friends at The Information, which is a very, very well-respected publication in the tech world, they tend to get a lot of exclusives. They do really insightful reporting. They have revealed that Panthalassa is raising another round, which would value them at $2 billion at least. So for nobody talking about Panthalassa several months ago to this being a company worth $2 billion in our community is really impressive, and kind of furthers the hypothesis that I have that in the state of Oregon, with natural resources, be they geothermal power or hydropower or wind power or wave power, we have all these unique geographic elements to our state that people can take advantage of using, coupled with our expertise in processors and chips and chip design and all that kind of thing. Like, Panthalassa makes a lot of sense here, and Panthalassa is a good example of any number of companies that could be created here. So I'm really impressed with what they're doing, really eager to keep an eye on what they're building, but suffice it to say, the VCs are super interested in Panthalassa too, and I think the only local VC who has invested there is Portland Seed Fund, so good on them with their climate tech focus to recognize the potential of Panthalassa. It seems to be a really exciting pursuit. I continue to track on them just because it seems like something that combines a bunch of really interesting aspects of Oregon and what Oregon has to offer in a really meaningful way that potentially has, the ability to change globally how we're dealing with this AI compute, this data center turmoil and drama that we're dealing with in terms of, some people are very concerned about data centers and their impact on land use and farm use and water use and all those kind of things. And perhaps this is a way to alleviate some of those concerns and yet still create a means of delivering data center functionality that is needed to move AI forward. But also, if you're using the Netflix or watching me here on YouTube or listening to a podcast or you're on your phone, that's all data center stuff too. So hopefully Panthalassa is heading upon something that really is innovative and revolutionizes that industry in a meaningful way, and really happy that it's happening here in Oregon. Very similar to Agility and how they are furthering robotics and are among the leaders in humanoid robotics, and they are right here in Oregon. So that's exciting as well. Sorry if you're hearing this from me first. Portland Startup Week is dead. Portland Startup Week is no longer. There is no Portland Startup Week that I know of, and I will let you know if I come across Portland Startup Week ever again. But Portland Startup Week has now transitioned to Oregon Startup Week. So I started Portland Startup Week way back when, like in the before days, prior to the pandemic, way back when, ran it for a few years and then handed it off to Josh Carter. And Josh Carter, unfortunately, inherited it just before the pandemic, so didn't really get a chance to explore Portland Startup Week until the last few years. He's been managing Portland Startup Week and has come to the decision that it is more reasonable that Portland Startup Week now become Oregon Startup Week. So it's not till next year. It's not till May. This is just an early signal that Portland Startup Week is dead. Long live Oregon Startup Week. So I believe he's soliciting statewide, potential ideas for events or people who want to participate or who want to collaborate, who want to help, who want to make Oregon Startup Week bigger, better, brighter than Portland Startup Week ever was. And for a startup community that often feels divided between Portland and everywhere else in the state, I'm really hopeful that this provides the kind of connective tissue throughout Oregon with the amazing startup activity that's occurring throughout the state. I really hope this provides a platform to amplify and highlight all the amazing entrepreneurial activity throughout the state through Oregon Startup Week taking place in May 2027. So while I'm sad to see Portland Startup Week go away, I'm very much excited to see Oregon Startup Week come into being. Do you remember Ampere Computing? Ampere Computing a while back, fairly quickly formed, grew, and exited for like $6 billion. And Renée James, who is the former president of Intel, was the founder and CEO of that company. So brought it to a successful exit, a wildly successful exit. And is now, she co-chaired the Prosperity Council. She's been looking for other things to do. Her new pursuit is called Rule 42. Rule 42 is focused on sports technology, really focusing on changing the way potentially successful athletes are identified and how they're recruited and like how that whole agent thing works. Like how do really promising athletes at the earliest stages like get recruited and brought into professional sports and ideally, and I'm hopeful that they're also considering how those people manage their career as professional athletes, but not a lot of detail out there. This is just a brand new launch, brand new to me. I didn't even know it was coming. I'd heard rumblings that there were some folks working on potentially professional women's softball as a thing. Obviously, with the fire here in town doing really well. Obviously, the Portland, Thorns being our most successful sports franchise of any professional sports in town. It's really nice to see this Rule 42 group starting to focus on professional athletics. Obviously, Renée James has had success and has capital and a great team they put together. So while it's still early, I'm still really interested in paying attention to this one, and I hope that you will too. I will, of course, keep you up to date on anything I learn about Rule 42, but as I said, very early, just very exciting to see this. We have such a incredible community of athletic apparel and footwear with the Nikes and Adidas of the world here in town. But also we have such an incredible tech community, and to see sports and technology come together, I think is something much like I talked about Panthalassa and the variety of energy resources, renewable energy resources and processor expertise. This is something very similar where it's sports expertise and technology expertise, and how do we bring those together? So both of those big stories really compelling in terms of playing to Oregon's strengths and building something that we should be able to greatly excel at. So let's keep an eye on Rule 42 and see where they go from here. Okay. All right. Thanks for staying. My energy level is a little low tonight. I think I was out in the heat and the smoke a little too much, but we're not secrets. Secrets is where I generally drop out of character and just provide you with some details on what's going on and what's happened this week and what's going on with me and those kind of things. First and foremost, like if you weren't paying attention, the blog I started writing called Silicon Florist, which inspired this whole show as well several years ago. I started writing that in 2007. I registered the domain Porkbun callback. I registered the domain August 7th, 2007, which is today. We're recording this. So officially, Silicon Florist is 19 years old. 19, which in my mind, the two things that come together is 10 years from Grosse Point Blank.
10 years, man!
And 9 times from Ferris Bueller.
9 times?
So you put those together, and it's 19. So happy 19th birthday to my blog, which means next year is the 20th anniversary of the blog. So I don't want to jinx anything. But because you're here, because you're staying for secrets, I'm going to share a real, actual secret with you. I shared this with my Patreon folks earlier in the week. But for you, because you're here for secrets, planning some kind of 20th anniversary celebration, I would love to have you there. I would like you to save the date for next year because August 7th falls on a Saturday. So we will have time to do things and stuff. Like I won't be recording my show. So if you go to siliconflorist.com/20, that should take you to the save the date thing, or maybe I'll put together a QR code or something here so that you can get to that link easily. But please, I would appreciate it if you would RSVP for that. And I would love to see you there. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I don't know where it's going to be. It depends how many people sign up. But if that sounds like something that would be interesting to you, please take the opportunity to join me to celebrate 20 years of blogging, unless I jinx it and everything falls apart. But let's hope I don't. And let's hope we get the time to hang out. So siliconflorist.com/20. Save the date, sign up, and we'll figure out what we're going to do to celebrate 20 years of Silicon Florist. Maybe that's why my energy is so low. Like the birthday, like writing the birthday post always takes a lot out of me, and this is not about me. So that's the other part, is I just don't like that's why I didn't talk about it throughout the episode. I was just like, fuck that. Like, you don't need to talk. You're already here. Why talk about me? You're already hanging out with me. You need to know about startups and helping folks survive the wildfires and all those kind of things. So that's that. Got to talk to somebody from the McGovern Foundation this week. I caught up with a bunch of folks at Bunk Bar, and it really felt like the early days of Beer and Blog, when we would all meet up at the Lucky Lab on where is that? Not Morrison. Is it on Hawthorne? Yeah, it's on Hawthorne. Where, like 5 or 6 of us would sit there, and Justin Kistner would be like, yeah, let me help you with your WordPress blogs, before it became, hundreds of people showing up every week. But this gathering at Bunk was great. It's just a bunch of people who are working in AI and kind of sharing what they're doing and what they'd learned and those kind of things. So it was just really fulfilling. Really made me, I was nostalgic this week already, obviously, but that made me extra nostalgic. And I'm sorry, these secrets are going to go real long. It's Silicon Florist's birthday. I'm going to go a little long on the secrets just in celebration of that kind of thing. Caught up with my Built Oregon co-founder, Mitch Doherty, who's now the head of the Portland office of small business within Prosper Portland. Good to see him and catch up. Caught up with some folks, both current and former folks at the Portland Metro Region Innovation Hub. The hub of innovation. The entire Portland Metro region. I almost forgot how I rattled that off every time, but good to catch up on them and trying to get some details on who the new leader for that organization might be. So stay tuned. Hopefully they're announcing that soon. Talked to some folks from the community, caught up with somebody from Business Oregon, chatted with them about what they're working on and all those kind of things. That was great. Caught up with a few VCs, caught up with some folks that, we're kind of all thinking through a potential event. I keep talking about I want to do a big event. Again, I keep on talking about I want to do like a destination event. Again, like I think we need to figure out a way to show off Portland and what's going on here, and with folks like Agility and Panthalassa and all that kind of stuff, there's huge opportunities. So it's still very early sketching it out on the back of a napkin phase, but checking that stuff out too. So that's just kind of where we are. Again, I think it's a combination of like writing the birthday post and having to focus on me and the work I do, incredibly taxing to me. So I apologize that my energy level is really low. Sorry, the secrets are so long, but hopefully you made it through. Please RSVP for the 20th Silicon Florist birthday anniversary kind of thing next year at this time. Hang in there. And until we get the chance to chat again, please keep up the good work.